begin with the Lions, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Falcons, the Browns, and so much more. We're so glad that you're with us today because we're going to be talking about everything. So if you're wondering what we think about your team, if you're wondering what everybody looks like on the field, you're going to find out. You're going to see. It's going to all be here. We're with you for 3 hours here. Then we move over to ABC. And this is the crew that's with us. We got Adam Schefter, Dan Orlovsky, Field Yates, Lewis Redick. And we got a lot to talk about, you guys. It's good to see everybody. Back Together Weekends means that we get back together as well, which I know we're all excited about.
And football is back. Not like fully, but it's very much so close. Close enough. It's very much so close.
We got a lot to talk about, but Adam, what are you looking out for today before we actually see people on the field? We're going to the Lions in just moments.
Well, I think the fact that Shedeur Stewart got his deal done with the Cincinnati Bengals last night is a big boost for the Bengals defense. Get their rookie, the number 17 overall pick, into camp. Now that he's done, they can begin focusing on Trey Hendrickson, who remains in Florida, waiting for a new contract. If they can get him back, that also would be an even bigger boost for this Bengals defense.
Yes. We'll get everybody's thoughts on Shedeur Stewart in just a little bit, but let's turn our attention to the Lions, you guys. The biggest changes, of course, are with their coaching staff. John Morton takes over for Ben Johnson as offensive coordinator. Kelvin Shepard takes over for Aaron Glenn as defensive coordinator. And with how good their offense was, defense was a focus this offseason, adding cornerbacks DJ Reed, Avonte Maddox, as well as defensive tackle Roy Lewis. With their first-round pick, they took D-tackle Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State. So we're going to go to live footage of their practice in just a little bit. We'll see them right now on the field. Dan, what are you thinking about the coordinator change and how much that really will make a difference on offense? Let's start there, and then we'll move to the defense.
It'll make a big difference. I think Detroit is one of those prime cases that they will be a very different, I think, better football team in November and December than the first part of what we see in September. This new offensive coordinator's got to figure out who this team is, and this team has to figure out who this offensive coordinator is. A lot of times we talk about play calling, and we only focus it on that individual play caller. But it's so much more connected than that. And so Johnny Morton comes over, and he's got to figure out, like, who's this offensive line without Frank Ragnow? You know, Tate Ratledge, he's not going to be who he is in September, who he'll be in November. You know what I'm saying? He's going to get better if that's going to be the guy. So he's got to figure out who this offense is as this season goes on. Ben Johnson knew exactly where they were because it was a couple years in. So I just think that the expectations for this football team should still be ridiculously high, but for their fans, give them till, November-ish to really figure out how Super Bowl contender you actually are.
Phil, Tate Ratledge, a lot of experience at Georgia, but now filling that void at center. How do you expect him to play there?
Yeah, he's a college guard, so he's got experience playing near the center spot, but hasn't played it much, at least not recently. I thought this player was terrific during his 4 years at Georgia. This was a guy who actually had that tightrope surgery on his ankle in the middle of the year last year and came back, and I thought somehow looked better during the concluding weeks of Georgia's season. Super experienced, great athlete. I'm not concerned about the eventual transition to the NFL, but you're putting a lot on the plate because you're not replacing some average center. You're replacing Frank Ragnow, who is arguably, not just one of the best, but probably the toughest player on this team. There's some legendary stories about what he brought to the table for the interior of the offensive line. Perhaps one of the biggest retentions for this team this offseason was Hank Fraley, their offensive line coach. Played a long time in this league, had a lot of suitors. I think Ben Johnson would have loved to have had him in Chicago. He interviewed for the Seahawks offensive coordinator spot. So at least a little bit of continuity along the position group side for a team that is going to see at least 40% of his offensive line look different this year.
Yeah, look, Tate's film is really good.
Yeah.
It's really good. He's a really good football player. And look, obviously, John Morton has to figure out exactly how to make sure that it all seamlessly fits together. This offensive line had a little bit of a step back a year ago as far as its blocking efficiency. But look, they need to really reestablish their dominance up front here as far as being able to capture the line of scrimmage and really pound people and bludgeon people. Because look, if you're a new offensive coordinator, that's probably one of the number one things that you want to make sure that you can do is make sure you can capture the line of scrimmage. Everything builds off of that. What was interesting is, like, I heard some stuff about how they want to use Jahmyr Gibbs this year and how Jahmyr has talked about the fact that I will be deployed a little bit differently. A lot more usage as a wide receiver, a lot more variance in terms of where they line me up, which I think is fantastic because the dude is just ridiculous. Keep an eye out for this name, too, speaking of the draft. Isaac Teslaw, the wide receiver from Arkansas, who they picked up, who is just a big, tall, fast son of a gun that they're going to be able to put in the middle. Him and Jameson Williams now, I mean, come on now. Yeah. When you think about that kind of combination along with Amon-Ra St. Brown, they're loaded up. The concern I still have for Detroit, though, can they rush the passer still?
Well, I think
Can they still rush the passer? Because look, okay, Tyreek Williams is a good player. He is a hell of an athlete, a big body, it's athletic as hell. Look, you were in the bottom third in the league in pass rush win rate last year. And Tyreek really jumped that up for him now.
That helps.
It does, but it's one dude, right? Tyreek has to be a force in the middle. There's a few questions, but look, that dude right there on your screen,
Man.
there's someone who'll figure it out. He'll figure it out.
You bring that pass rush up front. They're still waiting for Aleem McNeil to get back. Not fully back yet. You mentioned Ben Johnson. No Aaron Glenn on the defense side of football. Not only no Ben Johnson, no Aaron Glenn, they lost 8 coaches in all. And you mentioned they keep Hank Fraley, big key for that organization, but that's a lot of change.
Sure is.
That any team has to overcome when you lose a Pro Bowl caliber center in Frank Ragnow, when you lose 8 assistant coaches, including both coordinators. I just think that's a lot. And they're so good that they're capable of overcoming it because that's how much leadership they have, that's how much talent they have, and they've done a great job at identifying and drafting talent in recent years.
For sure.
The long game, I just think is really important for this team this year. They've done such a good job, long game as an organization in the rebuild. But we've talked about the offense in Ragnow. It's also in the names that were mentioned. Hutchinson's got to get healthy. Aleem McNeil has to get healthy. They'll be much healthier in November and December than they will be in September. This also has the chance to be one of the best secondaries in football with the addition of DJ Reed. Brian Branch is fantastic. So I just think the expectations will be for them to hit the ground running and come out like gangbusters in September.
Sure.
I don't think they're going to be the football team that they will eventually when it comes to the matchup. I just think they're one of those teams that is going to be much, much better in November and December than they are in September.
One of the things we heard yesterday from Jeremy Fowler, he was there, is that Jamison Williams is going to have an even bigger role in this offense and not just be a guy that's a
They got to figure that out, though.
Right.
They got to figure that out.
Jared Goff may have a little bit more ownership on this offense for the first time in his career. It was more Ben Johnson's offense before. We'll see the Bears camp in a little bit, by the way. We'll check in on Ben Johnson now as the head coach there. But here's more of our schedule, what we're looking out for throughout the day. Again, we're going to every single NFL team today at some point. You see what it looks like on your screen. Up next, the Jets. 9:05, we check in with the Dolphins. We'll see the Falcons, Michael Penix Jr., what he's looking like. And how about that quarterback battle for the Browns? That at 9:30 a.m. I mentioned the Bears. They're on your screen. The Panthers. You've got the Texans, the Eagles, the defending champs. And then we'll go to Patriots camp. So much more coming in the afternoon as well. A lot of top stories to get to, though. We talked about Shamar Stewart off the top of the show, but what else should we know about that's the latest in the league right now, Adam?
We got a lot of ground to cover today, but right now we're going to start with Justin Jefferson in Minnesota, who will be out of training camp for at least the next week or so.